With my memory returned, I made a solemn promise to leave behind the husband and family who had treated me so poorly. Where could I be? My name is Meg, and I'm 28 years old. Awakening, I discovered myself nestled in a hospital bed. Perplexed by my surroundings, the sound of approaching footsteps caught my attention. Suddenly, a man burst into the room, his face contorted with anger. Yet to my bewilderment, I had no recollection of him whatsoever. I have no idea who this man is. Excuse me, but who are you? I inquired, my voice tinged with confusion. Meg, are you kidding me? If you're awake, you must be fine. So, leave the hospital right away. Being hospitalized is such an overreaction. You're dragging me into this mess. His tone was harsh and accusatory, catching me off guard. How rude of him to shout at me upon our first meeting. As his voice echoed through the room, a nurse and a security guard rushed in, swiftly removing him from the scene. I remained frozen in shock, grappling with the abruptness of the encounter. Soon after, my mother, Mary, entered the room, her eyes brimming with tears of relief. Meg, you're awake. I'm so glad. We were so worried about you. But her words felt disjointed, disconnected from my reality as I struggled to piece together the fragments of my memory. My brother Jake, usually so stoic, had tears streaming down his face. Even my father Ken, known for his reserve, couldn't hide his emotion as he stood beside Jake. According to their account, I was discovered collapsed in front of our house. I had suffered a concussion and a deep cut on my head requiring stitches, injuries of which I had no memory. Apparently, a neighbor had witnessed my fall and called for medical help due to the significant bleeding. That's what Mom told me. Mom, who was that confrontational man earlier? I asked, puzzled. Confrontational man? Now it was my family's turn to be confused. After a conversation with the nurse and security guard who had escorted the man out, it became apparent that the aggressive individual was supposed to be my husband. Wait, I'm married. I have absolutely no memory of that. I exclaimed, stunned by the revelation. Meg, are you serious? My brother's concerned gaze bored into mine. Why did you collapse in front of that house? And that guy earlier, he was yelling at you to leave the hospital right away. Do you have amnesia? My mother muttered, her worry evident as she quickly reached for the nurse call button. After explaining the situation to the nurse, I underwent a battery of medical tests. With too many procedures to complete in a single day, and results not immediately available, I found myself inundated with visitors as I waited. My coworkers arrived bearing my favorite snacks, flowers, fruit, and other thoughtful gifts to aid in my recovery. Some even brought personalized tokens of affection. Friends streamed in one after another, their concern palpable as they came to check on me. Amidst the influx of well-wishers, amidst the love and support pouring in, there emerged a discordant note. Shockingly, it came from my own husband, Kevin, and his parents. How long do you plan to stay in the hospital? Do you have any idea how much this is costing us? Who do you think is footing the bill? You need to get out of here as soon as possible. You're being lazy. Get back to work immediately. Your absence is causing us significant problems. These incredulous remarks were uttered by none other than Kevin and his parents amid the sea of concerned faces. When my father witnessed their callousness, he was taken aback, seeing a side of them he'd never known. My daughter is gravely injured. She's here because she needs medical care. You heartless people have no right to speak to her in such a manner, he retorted, his voice carrying a firmness I hadn't heard before from his typically gentle demeanor. Please leave at once, my brother and mother echoed my father's sentiment. Your presence is not welcome here anymore. That day, pressured by my family's firm stance, I hastily departed. Yet despite my swift exit, my husband and in-laws persisted, bombarding the hospital staff with complaints and demands for my discharge. Eventually, I was relocated to a private room, where their access was promptly restricted. Remarkably, the hospital granted me the privilege of staying in the private room at the cost of a shared one, a stroke of luck amidst the chaos. As test results trickled in, revealing a significant loss of memory, the surreal nature of my situation dawned upon me. How could such a thing happen in the realm of reality? Initially suspected to be a result of traumatic injury, the absence of brain bleeding despite my head striking the concrete road raised doubts about the diagnosis. The diagnosis unveiled a psychological condition triggered by the impact to my head, plunging me into a bewildering state. I grappled with the incomprehensible reality unfolding before me, unable to even recall the visage of my purported husband, let alone fathom our marital bond. It appeared I had been wedded and cohabiting with my in-laws. Kevin, my supposed spouse at 35 years old, toiled at my in-laws' establishment while I served as a secretary elsewhere, a semblance of normalcy amidst the turmoil. However, normalcy quickly unraveled as I learned of the suffocating grip under which my actions were ensnared by Kevin and his family. They seized control of my earnings, converting my labor into their gains, casting a shadow over what should have been wedded bliss. My salary vanished almost as swiftly as it appeared, leaving me bereft of financial autonomy. Amidst the fiscal suffocation, I found myself shackled to the endless demands of household chores, a burden unjustly heaped upon me as Kevin shirked his responsibilities, citing archaic gender norms as justification. His actions painted a stark portrait of marital oppression, a narrative where blame and verbal barbs were hurled at me relentlessly, branding me as useless and slow-witted for every perceived misstep. Under the suffocating weight of marital expectations, I endured incessant haranguing from my in-laws who incessantly badgered me about household chores, work, and the inability to conceive. Even the simple act of enjoying a proper meal became a distant luxury within the confines of that house. Amidst this oppressive atmosphere, it became evident that my exhaustion was mounting. While Kevin chauffeured me to and from work, his motives were far from altruistic. Rather, it was a calculated effort to ensure my compliance, to prevent any deviation that might incur unnecessary expenses. It was my coworker and confidant, Betty, who pieced together the fragments of my married life, recounting conversations where I had confided in her about the trials endured with Kevin and my in-laws. As Betty recounted the details, memories slowly began to resurface, revealing the events leading up to the day of my injury. On that particular day, as was becoming customary, Kevin's voice pierced through the confined space of the car as we made our way home from an errand. "You took forever at the store, and now we're going to be late for our appointment. What's your excuse this time, you slowpoke?" "It wasn't just my shopping. I was searching for an item your mom requested. If you had bothered to assist me, we would have finished much sooner," I retorted, my frustration simmering beneath the surface. "Stop with the excuses. It's the same thing every time. Every outing with you ends in frustration. I shouldn't have even bothered to come along," my husband's tirade continued relentlessly, echoing through the confines of the car. For nearly an hour, he didn't let up, his anger mounting with each passing moment. Upon arriving home, his ire still ablaze, he spat out hurtful words, urging me to hurry out of the car with a final insult before forcefully pushing me from the driver's seat, causing me to tumble onto the unforgiving concrete below. Even as I lay there, wounded and vulnerable, he didn't cease his verbal assault. Ignoring my plight, he drove away, leaving me stranded and injured. It was a vigilant neighbor who stumbled upon my motionless form, bleeding from a head wound, prompting the call for an ambulance. Recalling this harrowing incident, I contacted the authorities, determined to seek justice for the pain I had endured. Subsequent investigations, supported by security camera footage, validated the truth of my memories. Anger coursed through me as I grappled with the cruelty I had endured. Why had I been subjected to such treatment? I vowed silently that he would face the consequences for his actions. Yet even as I harbored this resolve, the reality of my marriage to Kevin remained hazy and distant, as if belonging to another life entirely. My weary body, coupled with the revelations of my medical condition, served as stark reminders of the ordeal I had endured, a testament to the grim reality of the married life Betty had described. Upon my discharge from the hospital, I made the decision to eschew returning to Kevin's household, instead opting to seek solace in the familiar embrace of my parents' home. There, within the sanctuary of my childhood abode, I was enveloped in a cocoon of love and care fit for a princess. "Meg, today we prepared your favorite fried chicken. Indulge yourself, dear. And your father even brought home a cake. Let's savor it together later," my mother would announce with a smile, her culinary prowess transforming each meal into a feast. Meanwhile, my father and brother lavished me with unwavering attention and support. Under the tender ministrations of my family, my body gradually found renewal with each passing day. My workplace, understanding of my plight, encouraged me to take a leave of absence, insisting that I return only once fully restored. In the embrace of my parents' nurturing care, not only did the wounds from my accident begin to heal, but the burdensome weight of fatigue began to lift as well. Remarkably, even my hair and skin, ravaged by the ordeal of hospitalization, regained their former luster. It was a testament to the profound impact of stress. Burdened by the weight of my tumultuous married life, a sudden wave of anxiety gripped my thoughts. Must I return to that house simply because of marriage? The question spilled from my lips, betraying my unease. Don't concern yourself with that, dear. No one will compel our beloved daughter to endure such hardships. You must sever ties and seek a divorce as soon as possible, reassured my mother, her words a balm to my troubled soul. Following a family discussion, it was decided to seek legal counsel from a trusted friend of my father, a lawyer who had known me since childhood and shared a long-standing relationship with my family. Upon learning the details of my plight, the lawyer, much like my family, expressed vehement outrage and resolved to assist in every possible way. With the guidance of this skilled legal advocate, the process of divorce commenced smoothly, offering a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness of my marital ordeal. Meanwhile, within the confines of Kevin's household, simmering resentment filled the air as Kevin and his parents seethed with frustration. When will she return? The smooth operation of the store depends on her. We can't afford to wait any longer, Kevin lamented, his tone tinged with irritation. Echoing his sentiments, his mother-in-law interjected, "She's been discharged from the hospital, hasn't she? There's no reason for her to remain away. Instead of idling, she should focus on providing us with an heir." Adding fuel to the fire, his father-in-law chimed in, "She's become too accustomed to being coddled. Once she returns, we'll need to remind her of her responsibilities." In their desperation, they resorted to incessant calls to my parents' home, each inquiry dripping with urgency. "Is Meg there? Why hasn't she returned yet? Surely she's recovered by now. We have our business to consider, so we implore you to send her back immediately." My brother relayed the relentless demands they had made over the phone. Despite my family's unanimous support for my decision to stay away, I felt compelled to retrieve my belongings from the house. Seeking legal guidance, I enlisted the aid of a lawyer, and my father agreed to accompany me on this endeavor. From the moment I set foot inside, tension hung thick in the air, and the accusatory tirades began anew. "How long do you intend to linger at your parents' home? Why haven't you been answering your phone? Your negligence is appalling. It's high time you return to your duties. There's an overwhelming backlog of chores and responsibilities awaiting your attention." Kevin and my in-laws berated me without restraint. However, their vitriol was swiftly silenced as the lawyer and my father entered the room, their presence commanding a momentary pause in the onslaught of accusations. "Why did you bring a lawyer? What business do they have here?" they demanded, their anger palpable. "Let's take a moment to sit down and talk," the lawyer intervened, her calming presence guiding them towards the living room alongside my father. As they engaged in discussion, I retreated upstairs to my room, my mind swirling with uncertainty. Why had I returned to this oppressive environment? It dawned on me that I had left behind crucial evidence of the emotional abuse endured within these walls, a diary meticulously chronicling the hurtful words and actions of Kevin and my in-laws. The lawyer had stressed its importance as evidence, and I possessed another piece of damning proof, carefully concealed from prying eyes. As I busied myself with packing, the tense atmosphere downstairs erupted into a cacophony of voices. "Who consented to the divorce? You can't make decisions on your own." The sharp sound of impact echoed through the house, sending a shiver down my spine. It was evident that my father and the lawyer had broached the topic of divorce, sparking a volatile reaction from Kevin and his family. Frantically clutching my packed belongings, I hurried downstairs, only to be met by Kevin emerging from the entrance, his accusatory words cutting through the tension. "What's with the luggage? Are you not planning to return? And who's spreading rumors about winning a divorce? Explain yourself." His voice was laced with anger as he reached out towards me. Thankfully, the lawyer intervened just in time, her presence a barrier between us. "Violence is never acceptable," she asserted firmly. "I'm not being violent. I just want to talk to her," Kevin protested, his frustration evident. "You need to communicate calmly," the lawyer insisted, maintaining a firm stance. However, as Kevin attempted to approach me once more, the doorbell chimed with an urgent tone. "Yes, who is it?" My mother-in-law's voice crackled through the intercom. "We are the police. Is Kevin Davis at home?" came the unexpected reply. "Kevin Davis is my husband's full name. What could the police possibly want here?" My mother-in-law's voice quivered with apprehension. "Could you please open the door if Mr. Davis is present?" the police persisted. With a sense of urgency, my mother-in-law hastened to the door and swung it open. "Excuse us, which one of you is Kevin Davis?" the officers inquired. That would be me, my husband responded, his tone tense. Kevin Davis, you were under arrest on suspicion of assault. Please come with us to the station, the police declared, their words hanging heavy in the air. As the police officer made the announcement, the tension in the room was palpable. I could hear my mother-in-law's sharp intake of breath, a testament to the shock rippling through the household. My husband, too, appeared shaken, his voice trembling as he questioned, "Why me?" His confusion was evident, but there was no denying the gravity of the situation. Indeed, what had initially seemed like a mere incident had now escalated into a criminal case following the official complaint lodged with the police. Fortunately, the presence of security camera footage left no room for ambiguity or excuses. Initially, my husband was led away in silence. However, his composure quickly gave way to vehement protests. "I'm not at fault. It's her clumsiness that caused this. It's an exaggeration to call it assault just because I nudged her. Meg, are you even listening? Withdraw the complaint immediately." His shouts reverberated through the house, drawing the attention of concerned neighbors who began to gather at the entrance. Amidst the chaos, my mother-in-law's anguished cries pierced the air, while my father-in-law stood in stunned silence. Choosing to ignore the tumult unfolding behind us, my father, the lawyer, and I departed from the house, leaving behind the tumultuous scene. Subsequently, we took decisive action by dispatching a certified letter to my husband and in-laws, formally initiating divorce proceedings. Citing the recent incident and the persistent emotional abuse, we outlined the grounds for our decision. The emotional turmoil endured was meticulously documented within the pages of a diary retrieved from the house. Then, on a pivotal day when Kevin's frustration erupted in a violent outburst, my memory returned in full force. The trauma of the emotional abuse flooded back, overwhelming me with its intensity. Moreover, voice notes on my smartphone served as damning evidence, capturing the countless instances of verbal abuse. Over the course of a year, nearly 100 recordings detailed the relentless onslaught of insults and belittlement. The recordings revealed not only the venomous words of my husband but also those of my in-laws. Trivial matters such as a delayed dinner or an unprepared bath served as triggers for harsh rebukes. "Meg, it's already 7 p.m., and dinner isn't ready. Can't you handle such a simple task? You're a failure as a wife," scolded my mother-in-law. Similarly, my husband's voice echoed with disdain, berating me for my perceived incompetence. The barrage of insults, calling me a failure, useless, a slacker, and slow-witted, left me recoiling in horror. Just listening to the recordings caused me to shrink within myself, each word a painful reminder of the relentless abuse endured. The incontrovertible evidence presented by the diary and voice recordings left no room for denial or dispute. With such solid proof in hand, the divorce proceedings proceeded smoothly and swiftly. In addition to the certified letter, I included a crucial piece of evidence, a copy of Kevin's medical test results. Despite enduring unwarranted blame from my in-laws for our inability to conceive, the truth revealed in the test results was irrefutable. Kevin suffered from azoospermia. I had kept this information private out of concern for Kevin's ego, but with the decision to divorce, there was no need to maintain silence. This revelation shattered any illusions my in-laws held regarding their son's role in our infertility struggles. Throughout the legal proceedings, Kevin's lack of remorse and persistent attempts to shift blame only served to worsen his case. His behavior in court left a poor impression on the judge, resulting in a prison sentence without the possibility of probation. Furthermore, I pursued legal action against him for emotional abuse and psychological domestic violence in civil court, seeking both justice and compensation for the suffering endured. As for my feelings towards my husband, any semblance of affection had long since dissipated with the return of my memory. The impending separation brought a sense of relief, knowing that I would no longer have to endure his presence. With Kevin behind bars, I could finally find solace and closure. As for my in-laws, their initial reluctance to accept responsibility quickly dissolved when confronted with the evidence of emotional abuse. Fearing repercussions for their business, they agreed to a substantial settlement, eager to avoid further tarnishing their reputation. Despite their initial protests, they ultimately acquiesced, recognizing the gravity of the situation and the need to sever ties completely. The fears harbored by my in-laws manifested into a harsh reality. With their son, who was an integral part of their business, arrested, the whispers of gossip began to circulate. Rumors painted a grim picture of domestic violence, tarnishing the reputation of their store. Despite their daughter-in-law's contributions, she was subjected to bullying and exploitation, forced to toil without compensation at their establishment. As the rumors spread like wildfire, the once thriving business began to wither. Customers dwindled, and within a mere 6 months of Kevin's arrest, the store succumbed to bankruptcy. Having leveraged their land for a loan, my in-laws lost not only their business but also their savings, ultimately finding themselves stripped of their assets and relegated to a modest existence in an aged apartment, reliant on welfare to make ends meet. As for their future, once Kevin is released from prison, it is a matter that no longer concerns me. With our ties severed, I am no longer privy to their affairs. Meg, how about dinner tonight? Ronald, my boss and current boyfriend, asks cheerfully as we wrap up work. Come on, Ron, everyone's still around. I laugh, glancing at our colleagues. You two are just too adorable. It's sickeningly sweet, teases one of them. We're not bothered by your jealousy, Ronald retorts playfully, ignoring the banter. With a mischievous grin, he adds, I've already made reservations. Let's not keep the food waiting. In the years following my husband's arrest and subsequent release, Ronald has been a steadfast source of support. He has patiently listened to my struggles and provided unwavering assistance, even offering rides to and from work when needed. One day, out of the blue, my ex approached me with a proposition. Meg, I have something to discuss. Let's give our relationship another shot. I've changed and I'm confident we can make it work, he declared. Ronald, caught in the middle, swiftly stepped in. Leave her alone. Unfazed, my ex retorted, this doesn't concern you. It's between Meg and me. Stay out of it. Ronald stood his ground, asserting, Meg is important to me. You need to let go. If I see you bothering her again, I won't hesitate to involve the authorities. Fortunately, I haven't encountered my ex since that incident. Ronald, with his athletic build and determined demeanor, proved to be a formidable presence against my comparatively smaller ex. Despite his tough exterior, Ronald has a soft spot for sweets, a charming contrast that adds to his appeal. He's an exceptional individual who always respects my choices and opinions.